what we've created from the last previous steps, we created a basic table structure in our index. So we had the following out. We added an image to the left-hand side, and we created a table along here, as well as we did a bit of image manipulation to create buttons and to get rid of the background of the logo. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we saw in our actual HTML, we learned the importance of also putting an alternative. The source would be where you get the image from. A very important thing to notice here is I do not put the full directory path, the full path down. I don't write there C drive // documents / users or whatever. I don't put that stuff down. The reason why is because when you put it onto the web server, obviously the location will change. And obviously in this case, if you submit it to your teacher, the location would change. So you must only put from in reference to where this item is, where it is. So now, the alternative, the alt here, text is what will happen when you put your mouse over it, or for example, if the user chose not to have any, not to put any images on. There's a setting in your browser where you could say do not download images, and this makes browsing very quick for when you just need to retrieve content. So that's why you'd always put your alt there, and it's very important you do. As far as the heading cell is concerned, I'm just going to put a heading 1 tag in, which is your main heading. Sorry, let me just quickly do it properly, and it's going to be bacon is good. To align center, there's an attribute align space center, but often a line tag doesn't always, or line attribute doesn't always work. So nice tag you can use is center. So anything enclosed inside the center tag will be centered, and remember American spelling. It should be the close center. So anything inside there would be centered. If you want to make your life easier, you can always just use indents, so you can see that that image is inside that TD and inside the CH. So it depends on how you want to format it on the way that it looks good. Some people would prefer to do this because it shows what's inside what, and I can understand that. And especially when you code Java, you will always be working with multiple lines and indenting when you're inside method structures and loop structures. Okay, now this button cell, we want to put the image that represents that. So we want to put their home, health, and recipe. So what we're going to do is we're going to say img src. Now remember, use control spacebar. It's a nice way of just making sure you pointing to the correct one. So I want this to be the home button, and the alternative text to be home link. And same thing for the other ones. Now we also want this image to link to a page. So how we get something to link is we use an A tag, and anything inside that A tag will link you to that location. So in this case, we want to link to our home page is always called. What is our home page always called, guys? Index. Okay, now so it's going to href to index.html. Now we don't have any other pages yet, but we will. So just because we don't have them doesn't mean we can't code for it. We can still code for it, and we just must make sure we name correctly as well on there. So I'm just going to copy and paste this because all of our buttons are going to be very similar. So I'm just going to copy this. Let me actually maybe get the indentation right first. So we're keeping to this. This is going to be very step-by-step layout. Can you guys all read what's I've got, or do you need me to zoom in more? You can read it. Okay, cool. Alright, so now this here would link to that location and would be called well, that. And we want this one to link to recipe or health. So let's do recipe first. So we go recipe button.png, and this will link to recipe.html, and then our next one will link to. So all I'm doing is copying and pasting, it makes your life a lot easier when coding. So you link to whichever one you want. Now, so now that we've got that, let's just check if it works. And remember, make sure you save, because a very common mistake is you actually don't save and you wonder why it's not pitching up. It's very, very common. Whoa! Now you'll notice here what's happened is that the images are too large, so they've actually taken up too much of the page. Now, if they're extremely too large, I would suggest you change the image size, or use a program like give me a second. GIMP you can resize, but for bulk resizing there's a program called FS, which is Fast Stone Photo Resizer, and what that'll allow you to do is go, okay, resize all 3 of these images to this width, and then it'll resize 3 of them, or in the case if you've got 1,000, it'll resize 1,000. So if you're doing bulk resizing, FS resizer, but GIMP will be good for other image resizing occasions. In this particular instance, it's not far out, so what I'm just going to do is I need to stipulate in my cascading style sheet the sizes of the images. So what we do is we create a class, and I'm going to call this class the actual physical button. So I'm going to call this button class, because we already got button cell for the cell that's in there, and now we've got a class button. So I'm going to now go class, all of them class button, and now we've got to specify those widths. Now this particular item I'm not 100% sure of, but I'm curious. The button is in a cell. So now if I specify the width and the height to be 100%, sorry, not equals, to be 100%, would that not mean it must take 100% of that cell, or 100% to what it is? So let's just take a look at that. I mean, ideally I'm hoping that HTML would make it 100% of the cell that it's within, but let's find out. So in other words, it won't resize the cell, it will just make sure it will take up the full percentage of that. Oh yay, it did. It did do what we wanted to. However, I'm a little bit I don't like it, because the row height is now not very good. So potentially what we did is we didn't. So like a lot of HTML is just messing around, like things like this. Now we'll check row 2, and there's a class of row 2, and you'll see I've set their height 100. So let's try and make it height 15% as well. Let's say 10%. Let's see what happens then. So the height is not working, so it's not allowing me to manipulate that to be too drastic. Okay. So now, yeah, I did. It's on YouTube already. Okay, sorry about that, but it looks like the best at height 100 and height of the cell 70. Well, actually, I think that actually doesn't even matter. I think I could just leave that blank. And you'll see it'll specify the image. Well, okay, fail. So I made the height of that 100 and this 100. Height. That looks like it's about right. Okay. Now you'll see that these links don't work because there's no page that actually exists of that, but at least they're up there. And then when I create those pages, they will link there. Now we've got the layout here pretty well. I'm liking it so far. We might potentially want to move this to the center of the image. So again, we could use that center attribute to put that in there, or we could get this do the cascading style sheet to make it larger. I'm not going to go into those details in this tutorial because, quite frankly, all that is just messing around. As long as you've got the structure properly here. What I am going to do in this tutorial is show you, with just a little bit of googling, you can find cool concepts. Like, for example, what if I wanted the borders of this these to change when the mouse is over this image, or when the mouse is over this TD? I wanted to change the border from inset or outset to inset, so it looks like it's pressing the button, something like that. All you would do is you'll generally just Google change border of table cell when mouse over. You can Google stuff like this, and check. There's always a whole bunch of different things that is happening out there, and it looks like there's quite a lot of detail that we found already. Okay, here it looks like it's manipulating of dot hover function. Okay, that's quite complex. Let's move on. Table border cell. Yeah, looking for a job. Border on, dot border off. Okay. Okay, so here they look like that they've got it's under classes. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to run with this one, and it looks like they've got a dot border on, dot border off style, and they work with on mouse over and on mouse off. This is on the whole table, so whether it will work inside just the TD itself, we'll see. But potentially what we could also do is just make the images themselves have a border around the images. So instead of the TDs having a border, we could make the image have a border if the TDs don't work. But let's just try that. So all we're going to do is we're going to say on our TDs, our TDs are called the button cell. So on our button cell, we're going to create a second one called dot button cell border or mouse over. And we're going to copy the exact same thing as what is there. The only difference is we're going to change this from having a border of inset to outset to inset. So all I've done is I've looked at what is available on Google. Because of having some basic understanding, I realized that this looked quite complex on the way that they were doing it. So I kind of just ignored it. And same with here. And then I try to find a more simplest version. And this one it looks quite simple, where the style, remember the dot is a style class. And here it just deals with the on the mouse over, and it just changes the class name based on that. Okay, so let's just try this. So we're just dealing with like a little bit more of a complex thing. So all we do now is here we say on mouse over this dot class. Okay, let me just pause the video for a second. So basically now what we've got is we've got this dot class name, I think it is. If in doubt, look at this dot class name, yeah. So I was correct, this dot class name. This dot class name equals border on. Now what you'll notice here is we've got double inverted commas to be referring to the inside here. So I can't use double inverted commas now. So all we do is we use single. And this dot class name is now going to be called button cell mouse over. So now it's going to be changing its class name. Now it's very important often when things don't work, it's often because of the naming. So just always double check your naming. In this case, button cell mouse over, button cell mouse over, it looks correct. Now obviously this, when the mouse goes over, it will change it to have the border on, but now what is very important, what they've got here is they've also said mouse out. So once your mouse goes over, it will also then revert back when the mouse is taken out of there. So we now need to also add another one on mouse out, and then on the mouse out we're going to do the same thing. This dot class name equals and in this case it's going to be button cell, and that's it. Okay, so this should work. I'm going to leave it only on for the index one just to test it for now, before we see if we can actually leave it on here or not. So remember, make sure everything is saved, otherwise you end up thinking it's not working when it is. So let's go back to our bacon is good. Control F5. Quick thing on this. F5 refreshes. Control F5 enforces a refresh from the server. So in other words, if you've got a copy on your cache or on your browser cache or on your web cache or etc., it will not just refresh from your own cache. It will make sure it'll get a new copy from the server. I think it's more likely from the web, from the web cache. And then check there, it works. So as I move my mouse over home, it it indents. You could also potentially do this on click. So on click it would indent, depending on which way you wanted to do this. So for example, if I now change this from mouse over to on click, which I'm assuming is there, yeah, it's weird, it did actually give me the options earlier. On mouse click. Let's give me no suggestions right now. Okay, let me try on this new one. On mouse over and mouse wheel. Okay, that doesn't look like there's mouse. Oh, mouse down. Nah. Okay, on abort, on click. There we go. On click. Okay, so potentially we could get it so that we'll just change class to on click to that, and that could be quite interesting as well. But potentially that might not work as well. I'm quite happy with the mouse over going down, so I'm just going to leave it because it worked. Okay, and we're going to copy and paste that for the other ones. Remember, make use of your copy and paste. It's pretty silly not to. So just like little features like that work quite well. I'm going to go ahead and finish this out. I'm going to make this image in the center, add the 2 images here, and then I'm going to show you how to copy across for the recipe and health items after that. Okay, goodbye for now. I'm sure for you it'll be a second, for me it'll be a bit longer. Bye. Okay, we've got the basic page up here. This is the one thing that we want to also do, is to vertically align this item here. So the big thing is on that actual whole TD you want to do the vertical alignment. So on this particular info cell you want to do a vertical alignment. Now info cell's over here. So as far as I'm aware, it's quite easy. We should just be able to go vertical line, and you put up there top vertical line, and that should move it across. So just remember, you work with the cell, not with the text, because the cell has the alignment properties in it. So if you want to especially vertically align, your horizontal alignment is always quite difficult, but your vertical is always on the cell. You work with the cell with alignment. Okay, so I've got some text, and let's say if I wanted the text to the left, here's a scenario where I want to be centers and wants to be outside of it. That's where I've used the center item here. So that's where you would use the center, whereas other than that you would refer to the whole. Oops, got rid of the bacon. So what you do is when you're designing a website, we're always looking at a very important concept as your common look and feel, meaning that the user should be able to navigate through the site, and everything shouldn't just move around and change places, and every page they have to go on, they have to re-look for what they're wanting to find. Every single page should look similar, the layout should be the same, you should be able to find items. So that's why you design your home page first, or design a single page first like I've done here, and then you go back and you'll now take a look at designing the recipe and health, now that we've got the structure up here, and we will just change the contents of the home of the screen here. So to demonstrate this, or to show you the easiest way of doing this, now that I've created this structure, all I'm going to do is go to where my website structure is, and here's my index, and all I'm going to do is create 2 additional copies. And remember, we need to rename them as we linked to them earlier. So I had one called recipe.html, and my other one was called health.html. So it's as easy as that. I just create duplicate copies of them, open them up in NetBeans. Very important, don't drop them here, because then it'll just create a link to them. NetBeans is quite cool like that. If you drag a page into there, it'll create you a link to that page. You must drag it into the top there, so you've got those items in here. And you'll see the exact same code has been taken here. So now on the recipe page, all I'm going to do is change the content of my main body here. So I'm going to call this the recipe I was thinking of making this PG, but okay. Plus heat. But that's not necessarily only bacon. I'm sure there's actually more process to that making bacon. I think bacon's magical, so let's just stick with baking. So I'm sure there's some magical process in between the pig and death and bacon, somewhere along those lines. Probably. Anyway, so on the second one, the health aspects of bacon, we're now going to go back down here. Where is it now? Now this is going to be the health of bacon. Okay, now just a nice other little tag that you can do is BR tag, just to show you one more tag. Your BR tag is a break tag, which just means it'll put an enter in there, so a line in between. So now if you take a look, if we refresh this, now if I click on home, it'll take me home. If I click on recipe, it'll take me the recipe to make bacon good. Health, and it'll take you to the my health link isn't working properly because it takes me to the home. So basically what happened is up here, so that's why it's important to always test health bacon. It relates to the index, which should relate to health.html, and unfortunately now, because I didn't do this correctly in the first place, I'll now have to change it in all 3 locations, which can be a little bit annoying, but a good test that you need to make sure you do this correctly the first time, or at least you check all of this before you copy and paste it. Otherwise you do have to, if you find an error afterwards, you then have to redo it on all the pages, which there we go. Okay, so now all 3 links work from all pages. I've got it there. There are some other nifty tricks you can do, like here we've got the little mouse over thing with the on mouse enter or whatever. Embedding videos is very easy. For example, if we're now wanting to YouTube video for Bacon and Chuck Norris, which potentially might be there, looks like not. That's not. Chuck Norris cooks bacon. I have no idea what this video is, but anyway, so let's say if we wanted now to post this video here, all we need to do is you'll click here, there's an option of share, and in the share you'll see there's an embed. Now, so share embed, it gives you the HTML code as an iframe, so I can just copy this and directly on my home page, inside that, or underneath that content that I've got, so after there's some text about bacon, I can just put that there. You can modify this slightly. You see there it's got a height and width. You can modify this to what you want. There's nothing too fancy about this. It just gives a source and a frame about the iframe. And then now, when I go to my page, my home page, you'll see there the video has been embedded into my page. It's as easy as that to embed a video. So you guys, and also there's JavaScript that you can find out to make a clock. Those are pretty cool. I'm sure there's a lot of other JavaScripts that do other funky stuff. You get analog clocks as well as digital clocks here. I'm sure you guys have seen there's a code that Google's got which will allow your page to sort of fall apart. There's freaky stuff out there. You guys can really mess around. I know on my last page I created that my class found pretty cool. Was just a simple hover, which is pretty cool. I do agree. But for example, now if I just go hover, not hover, sorry, it was called a mark Q, and you could, some text goes here. You can actually put quite a lot of text there. You can also put the width to this for some different areas, levels, and you'll see that this will actually just put some text that will scroll across the screen, which can be quite handy. So yeah, there's a lot of different things in HTML. There's a lot of different good websites out there. One of the websites I recommend is W3 Schools. So it's W3 Schools, and they're very popular sites, and they go through a lot of different tutorials and quite in depth on it. So they're quite good. Just for interest's sake, your PHP is your server-side languages. It's where you can generate content from a database into a web page. and the SQL would be your structured querying language to query your databases. Anyway, so it goes through a lot of different types of languages, but it does focus a lot on HTML and web-based technologies, obviously. The end where.